ahead and get started. Seems like the time. Well, welcome to Maximize Training ROI, 3 steps to boost learning retention. Thank you for being here with me today. There's this little voice inside of me that was wondering if anyone would show up. So I'm very grateful to see all your faces. So let me first introduce myself, and please tell me if you can't hear me or, if I need to go slower, have a habit of speaking faster when I'm excited. So I'm Brandy Dykert. I have been helping team members reach their professional goals for over 20 years in industries ranging from financial services to healthcare. I'm also the mother of 3 amazing kids, ages 20, 18, and 15, and I've been married for almost 23 years to the handsome gentleman in the back. So currently, I'm the Director of Instructional Design at Mercury Performance Group, where we help businesses solve their people problems to meet their business goals. And as of July, I'm going to be the president of my Rotary Club in Westerville, Ohio. Are there any Rotarians in the audience? Fantastic, I'm so glad to see you. If you don't know what Rotary is, make sure you look us up. We are an international service organization with 1.4 million members across the globe. Okay, so as a heads up, this is going to be an interactive presentation. You're going to have opportunities to share with a larger group and each other. So I'd like you to take the next few moments or a few minutes to introduce yourself to your neighbors. Share who you are, where you're from, why you're here, and a fun fact about yourself. So go ahead and go. Oh my goodness, I love the energy. Did anybody just meet their new best friend? All right, so I'm also going to be asking for your input by using Mentimeter or online polls. So have your phone ready to scan the QR code, or when the time's right, go to menti.com and enter the code on the slide, but not this code. This is not the right code, this is just a sample. When we get to the right slide, I'll point it out to you. Okay, so I'm guessing most of you are here because you are tired of wasting resources on your learning and development programs that reap very little or seemingly no rewards. Well, you're right to feel frustrated, and you're not alone. So let's take a couple moments to think of a time when you experienced training that didn't work. Does everyone have an idea or a moment, experience that you went through training and it didn't work? Okay, so who's willing to share about that experience and tell us what you think was missing? Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think many of these companies really were all introducing new technology. New technology, especially when you're used to certain skill sets, certain reviews, and outlook, or certain different software things along those lines. It takes a period of time to get used to the new technology. If you use a pilot program, anything along those lines. Long story short, my company did this as well. And we had a pilot program went swimmingly, everything was perfect. And then when we released it to the company, of course, that's when you start seeing hiccups and mistakes and pause productivity for a while there.
Right. So what do you think was missing in the training that made it not as effective as the pilot?
I think the pilot program needed to be a little bit more diverse. Both, we have many different markets, large, medium, small, all across the country. So it said we took the Freedom of the Project as our pilot program, and they're very adaptable to freedom and from that it is. We need to make sure that we're accommodating everyone from all walks of life.
Yes, great point, and we'll talk about that some. Yes, so I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that example. Thank you so much for having the courage to share. And we can all recognize the financial loss that occurs when training doesn't work. So what do you think was the average cost to train a team member in 2022? So here's where you can scan the QR code or go to menti.com and use the code 28757520. And as you complete that poll, our results should display. Oh, yay. Fantastic. Testing myself is not as fun as testing it. Let me see it live. everyone being able to vote? Okay, looks like, all right. So, according to the Association for Talent Development, the average cost to train a team member in 2022 was $1,220. And the retention rates are staggering. So raise your hand, or excuse me, what percentage of content do you think is retained 24 hours after training? Raise your hand if you think it's 75%, meaning 25% is forgotten. So training goes through a training program, and then the next day, how much do they remember? Does anyone think 75%? No? Okay. How about 50%? All right. Now what about 25%? So most people think 25%. Well, according to the forgetting curve, which is a concept coined by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, 24 hours after training, 50% is forgotten. 3 days after training, about 80% is forgotten. And then 6 days after training, less than 1 week, about 85% of what you're expecting team members to remember, and ourselves for that matter, are forgotten. So that equates to losing an average of $915 per trained team member. Thankfully, there are ways to reverse those averages and increase our return on investment through intentional intentional self-retention, learning retention practices. Okay, so at Mercury Performance Group, we believe in the hero effect. Our goal is to empower each client we work with to be the hero of their organization. So here's what you can expect if you implement the 3 methods we're going to discuss today. First, you'll ignite enthusiasm in your L&D programs by fostering active engagement over passive consumption. Your team members will have increased self-awareness and adaptability through intentional self-reflection. And ultimately, all of these methods will help to cultivate a harmonious learning culture in the organization that emphasizes continuous growth, knowledge sharing, collaboration, and accountability. So what changes do you anticipate in your team's performance if these retention strategies were implemented? Go ahead and take the next several minutes to discuss with your neighbors. So, will a couple of volunteers share their written plans? And what ways do you think team members may change if you implemented intentional learning strategies? Yes, please.
So the training that we're getting ready, we're doing a pilot program on, we desperately need, like literally everybody in the organization needs it currently. And so if we could actually see the results of the training, not just people like, oh, that was great, but like actually change and impact behavior, we would literally actually be more profitable. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
Genuinely, the business would run better, people would be happier, things would be, things would be much, much better if they could take this with them in a real,
Yes, so behavior changes is what I was looking for.
Behavior and approach, because it's not even just behavior, it's also how you think about things and how are you approaching other people. All of that.
Is there anyone else that wants to share? Thank you.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're having annual EEO training, which nobody has ever excited about. I'm excited about it. We're actually having MRA come in and do training, and it's going to be hands-on. And last time it was just, no offense, but an attorney that came in and spoke, and it was glazed eyes, process in, process out. And I'm excited about the conversations and hands-on application, and my hope is that we're definitely going to be sharing some knowledge, create some accountability, and I think we will really have some growth, because my goal is for everybody to understand it's not what is said or done, it's what's perceived. That's my goal, and I'm really hoping to see some change.
Good luck with that. Yes. Is there anyone else that would like to share? Well, let's move on to why our clients at Mercury Performance Group think that focusing on learning retention strategies is one of the most important elements in their L&D arsenal. recalling information, which is the most basic form of learning retention. It's the ability to recall facts, concepts, and procedures you've been taught. So if you learn Paris is the capital of France, then you should be able to recall that fact whenever you're asked about it. Now, true learning retention transcends time. This means the ability to recall information shouldn't be limited to a short period after learning it. It should be available weeks, months, or even years later. And learning retention becomes truly powerful when it moves beyond just remembering facts to actually applying the concepts and knowledge and skills to new and different situations. So for instance, if you learn customer service skills, though you should be able to use those skills to help solve real-world problems outside of work. And when you build on and continue to use the knowledge, they should get stronger. This is a key point of learning retention. So for instance, if you're learning a foreign language, the more you practice and use it, the more fluent you become. So think of a time when you successfully retained information long term. Which of these strategies did you use? To start with poll first. Now you should be able to access the QR code, or it should automatically update. Is everyone done submitting their responses? Fantastic. Now raise your hand if you use more than one of those strategies. All right, pretty much everyone. Yeah, so in order to increase learning retention, we have to be cognizant of providing multiple strategies for the learners to use and engage with. Okay, so now that we have an understanding of So now that we have an understanding of what learning retention is, let's move on to look at why it's important. So learning retention is important because team members will make more informed decisions, will be more efficient at problem solving, and will contribute more effectively to their roles. They become more adaptable by applying information in new and different ways, allowing them to focus on more advanced training and development and professional growth. And as team members grow, the empowerment and satisfaction they feel grows. The bottom line is affected when we increase learning retention because the number of team members needing retraining decreases, as well as number of errors and having to rework processes, then our return on investment increases. And the more team members retain, the stronger the inchworm effect becomes. So the inchworm effect was coined by our CEO, Brian Howard. It's when an organization's high performers pave the way for mid-level performers to grow. So if you'd like to learn more about it, reach out to me and I'll send you a video to the link for it. Okay, so why aren't team members retaining the information they should be learning? This next slide is the most important slide of this presentation because it allows organizations to identify exactly where they need to focus to increase learning retention. If leaders answer no to the following 5 questions, they've identified why learning retention is low in their organization. So is the content relevant, allowing team members to apply what they're learning to their job duties? Is the content non-lecture based? Does it provide opportunities for team members to practice what they're learning, as well as to interact with the content, each other, and the facilitator? Or if it's e-learning, do team members have the opportunity to interact directly with the content while they're completing the training? Does the organization's learning culture encourage collaboration, information sharing, and continuous learning? And are learning programs developed in ways that accommodate different learning styles and cognitive abilities, as you were sharing earlier? And that you can, you do that by making the activities, varying the activities, and making sure that they're touching on all of those different learning styles. And then finally, do post-learning plans include opportunities to apply what was learned, as well as resources and accountability for improvement? So if the answers are no to any of these 5 questions, those are the reasons why people are forgetting what you're expecting them to learn. So how do we turn those no's to yeses? Okay, so for this poll, go ahead and rank in order the factors that most significantly impact learning retention in your organization. By ranking these, you'll be able to identify the priority of the factors that you should be addressing. It's fun to see them jump around. Okay, so based on how you rank those, they'll tell you the factors that you need to prioritize and focus on first. All right, so now that you understand why retention is lower, or is your organization's experiencing low learning retention, let's move on to why you're all here, to discover solutions. So the 3 methods to increase learning retention are active learning, self-reflection, and learning culture. Now, before we dive into some practical ways to apply these methods, let's first set the foundation by reviewing the learning pyramid. The learning pyramid was first introduced by Edgar Dale, American educator, and it's divided into 3 tiers and provides a visual and percentages of retention based on learning activity. So the first tier is verbal reception, which includes reading, hearing, and seeing, which have the lowest retention rates. So these activities work well when your learning objectives are to only list, define, explain, or define a concept. So if your learning programs, most of the objectives are, excuse me. So if the learning objectives in your learning programs are mostly reading, hearing, and seeing, you can be guaranteed that the learning retention is going to be lower. So tier 2 is demonstrative reception. These learning activities have higher learning retention percentages because they combine hearing and sight, which increases the levels of stimulus and knowledge. Now, tier 3 is all about participation. These learning activities provide a perform as you learn approach, which provides experiential successes and failures that team members will remember and learn from. The highest retention is achieved when team members can practice what they're learning and practice performing the relevant tasks that they're learning. So based on the learning pyramid, which tier does your organization's training methods mostly fall into? So go ahead and take the next several minutes to discuss that with your neighbors. Okay, so were there any aha moments or anything that we've looked at so far within your discussions? All right, not yet. All right, so now that we can see how learning retention increases as active learning activities are incorporated, let's move on to some specific examples of how you can optimize the learning and retention. Okay, so let's move on to some specific learning activities activities that you can incorporate to optimize your learning and development programs. Here it is. Okay, so first, group projects, which encourages learners to apply what they've learned, solve problems collaboratively, and engage in meaningful discussions. Scenarios are real-world examples that allow learners the opportunity to examine and discuss, which fosters critical thinking and problem-solving skills. So here's a sample conflict resolution scenarios activity I developed for a nonprofit that focuses on rehabilitation. To facilitate scenarios, make sure that you provide the background information and an objective to focus on, and allow time for participants to share their findings with a larger group. Role plays are a fun and effective active learning activity that allows learners to apply what they're learning to solve real-world problems. That it's engaging and hands-on, and also provides opportunities for learners to apply and practice what they're learning. Here's a sample role-playing activity I developed for one of our restoration clients for their performance review conversations course. Just like scenarios, make sure that you provide the background information and an objective to focus on. And for all of these activities, make sure that you're providing time to debrief, to reinforce those key concepts that you're expecting them to learn. Okay, and then interactive educational games are a fun and competitive way to apply learning and problem solve. Some examples of those are Jeopardy, Kahoot, and Bingo. So remember, the key to effective active learning is to ensure that activities are structured, relevant, and engage learners in thoughtful and reflective learning. Those activities should encourage learners to interact with the content, their peers, and the facilitator. Okay, so let's move on and focus on the second method to boost learning retention. Plan time for self-reflection. Self-reflection enables team members to better comprehend and apply their learning. It encourages active engagement, deepens understanding, and strengthens retention. By reflecting, learners can understand their learning styles better, identify their strengths, and uncover their weaknesses, allowing them to focus more on those areas to enhance learning outcomes. Reflection helps learners connect and build on new information, which assists in long-term memory storage and retrieval. And when learners reflect on what they learn, it enhances problem solving, They gain a deeper understanding of the material. They're not just memorizing facts, they're uncovering the how and why behind the information. And self-reflection also enhances problem-solving skills. By reflecting on how they approached a problem and the result they achieved, they can identify more effective strategies for the future. Self-reflection also turns learners from passive recipients of information into active participants in their own learning process. And self-reflection also cultivates skills such as self-awareness, adaptability, and critical thinking. So as team members move through different stages of life, they can apply those skills to continually adapt and learn and grow. So let's take a few moments to practice self-reflection. Think about what you've learned so far today and what has stuck with you. Think of what you could do differently, more of, or differently when you return to work. If you have a means to, I highly encourage you to document your thoughts. Does anyone need more time to reflect? Is that awkward for anyone? It feels uncomfortable for me sometimes to just pause, stop, and think about all the things. All right, so finally, the third method to boost learning retention. Let's discuss how a learning culture that promotes continuous learning, knowledge sharing, collaboration, and accountability can optimize learning outcomes. So, continuous learning. This approach approach encourages learners to view learning as an ongoing, never-ending process. It helps reinforce and build upon existing knowledge and encourages learners to stay up to date on new information and changes in their industry. When learners share what they've learned with others, they not only help their peers, but they also reinforce their own understanding. Explaining something to someone else requires a clearer grasp of the content. And receiving information from their peers provides different perspectives, which assists in grasping and retaining learning concepts. Working together in a team promotes active engagement with the material, allowing learners to debate, discuss, and problem solve collectively, deepening their understanding and helping to imprint that information more firmly in their memory. And accountability in learning occurs with structured assessments, peer feedback, and self-reflection. This encourages learners to take ownership of their learning process. And when they're held accountable, they're more likely to engage more deeply with the content to strive to understand and remember it. So overall, a positive learning culture, one that embraces all of these aspects, can make learning a more enjoyable and rewarding experience. And the positive environment can increase motivation and empowerment, which plays a crucial role in effective learning and retention. So what aspects of a positive learning culture are currently present or lacking in your organization? Go ahead and take the next few minutes to discuss with your neighbors. All right, so would a couple volunteers share about your learning culture in your organization? What you're really good at, or maybe we need to work on? A couple volunteers. Anyone have just a fantastic learning culture that could be no improvements? Okay, how about one thing that you, go ahead, yes please.
I think at my organization, one of the things that we can be better at is the accountability. I work at Nationwide Children's Hospital up in Columbus, and there are pockets of our organization that take the content and the resources and just apply it and get after it. And then there are many who just kind of, chillax. And I think, greater accountability, and one of the things I was sharing with the team is that the first question you asked about whether or not training was effective or not, a lot of times has to do with personal accountability. And now I can look at myself and go, well, that training was terrible, but actually, Bryce, did you apply anything? That's up to you. So accountability both for the individual and the group. Yep.
Anyone else feel compelled to share? Okay. All right. Well, now that you have an idea of 3 ways that you can boost learning retention, which impacts our return on investment, what is one key takeaway that you'd like to try to implement in your organization? Any volunteers to share? Yes, please.
I think the accountability piece, because I think we've been accidentally messing that one up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, with this concept of maybe sending people off to do projects or to maybe at the end, last 5 or 10 minutes, to talk about what they pulled from it or what they might be working on from it, or to do a follow-up that's a much shorter training, like half an hour where everybody talks about how they use it or something like that.
Yeah.
We haven't been doing anything like that, and I hadn't even really heard of this, and so I think that's really good.
Yeah, we have a saying, inspect what you expect. That's the level of accountability. Anything else? Someone else? Sure. Yes, please.
I think that self-reflection and encouraging that, I don't think that's the way being, I haven't thought of when you leave this training, making sure to encourage that, maybe do some follow-ups with that.
Yeah, I know I can be guilty to go through training and then that's, okay, it's done, check. But then, right, trying to understand, well, what do I need to do differently or more of? Anyone else? Yes?
I think it's helpful when the manager and the employees have a conversation before the training, and they both set expectations as to what they're going to take away, and then come back and have conversations afterwards and say, okay, now what did you really get from that training, and how are you going to apply it? So, in a way, it's your manager, but it is an accountability partner too.
absolutely. And setting those expectations for really any interaction we have is key. Great. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of information during our time together. I hope that you found it effective and that you can try to implement some of the ideas to make your learning and development programs better. If you find you love the ideas but need help with implementation, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. So I think we do have a couple minutes for Q&A. Is there any questions I can answer? Great, well, I greatly appreciate all your participation and your lovely faces. So if you could do me a favor and take just a moment or two to provide some feedback through this feedback survey for me, I greatly appreciate being able to uncover some ways that I can get better. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much again. Take care and have an amazing rest of your time.